I'm Jim, and I'm a sculptor, puppet maker, professional plasticine player, and this is what I do. For me, to make something like this, it's a fairly standard process that I follow. So it really all starts with a sketch and a theme. So for this one, I've been watching the Crufts show and was really rather taken with the Staffordshire Bull Terrier agility classes, and something quite bulky and quite crazy looking. Kind of being involved with that was quite an inspiration. So looking at pictures of Staffordshire Bull Terriers and looking at the character, making a few sketches, and then taking it from the sketch to finished puppet is kind of building a core, building a kind of basic skeleton to underpin the sculpting, to give me some of the basic shapes, using a lightweight core. We use something called plastizote, which is a carvable, lightweight foam that we can glue together and then carve and cut to shape. And then some wire legs, a wire neck, just to hold the thing together a bit, and a little bit in the tail. So very basic armature. So I'm more interested in what the head is doing than what the body is doing. And then it's a question of cladding that in plasticine and building up the anatomy of that. And mostly I concentrate on the face, and that's the kind of the big expressive part, and then working around from there. So probably all in all, if it was a long day, probably a day's work, a good long day's work. But as it is, I've taken a little bit more time with it and had a bit more fun with it. So yeah, started yesterday and finished it this afternoon. So probably a day and a bit's process all in all. Sometimes it's quite nice to leave a sculpt overnight and come back to it and then see how you feel about it, and then work from there as well. Pair of fresh eyes in the morning, and you can see the glaring faults with it as well, and hopefully rectify them until you get to the finished thing. So this is the finished product, and really it's a nice loose sculpt, and didn't cost a lot materials wise. Couple of quids with the plasticine, a bit more expensive for the coring, but really kind of back to basics model making, and that's what I really love. The more that we push technology, more exciting that can be, but also the more I want to go back to pushing clay about. This is what we have at school, this is what we'll have played with at home, and it's accessible to everybody. And what I love about this is that anybody can go to an art shop and pick up a couple of packs of clay and make something really quite lovely as well. And it will last a really long time. These could last for years. If you keep the dust off them and direct sunlight off them, they can last you a really long time. And I suppose for me, it's all about that handmade feel. You can see my fingerprints in there. You can see the scuffs and creases that I've put in there. And you can see the fact that it is made of clay. And that's what's really nice. There's a little bit of me in that thing, and that's what I enjoy about doing any craft, really. The handmade quality, the imperfections are what I'm really interested in. Asymmetry, the fact that you can see the maker's mark in there is rather nice. I think really there's just something quite joyful about being able to bring a character to life from very rude materials, really. There's not very much there to work with, and yet you can bring something that's got life. And I think this kind of jumps off the board and feels like it could run around the table, and and that's what I really like. You can bring life to something that's not very promising, and make a real character as well.